What's up, y'all? My name is Devontae, and I sacrificed my time so you don't have to. Now, I feel like me saying something like this, it always goes over people's heads for the most part, because who the fuck am I at the end of the day, right? I'm just a small YouTuber, and my little subsect right here, abstract from the rest of the wrestling community. I'm just here being my chef, doing my thingy thing. And, you know, you got people like Kevin Nash, and he's not the only one. There are other veterans who think the exact same way I think, and I'm just saying it in a more consistent manner compared to them, because obviously they're bigger platforms and they don't have to do what I have to do in order to grind. But what am I saying that's any different than them? I mean, honestly, all I'm doing is just using their talking points and talking from my own perspective as far as espousing my own viewpoints on professional wrestling nowadays, in particular AEW, because they can't stay out of the fucking news for shit. But this time, they're not really in the news. It's more so Kevin Nash giving his opinion, and something that I've been talking about for the longest that I currently want to talk about a little bit more, further, stronger. Kevin Nash says current AEW product is hard to watch. Kevin Nash, by the way, link is down in the description box. Kevin Nash, known for his candid opinions, hasn't shied away from sharing his views on the current state of professional wrestling. The two-time WWE Hall of Famer is renowned for speaking his mind and doesn't hold back when critiquing the modern wrestling scene, and this includes AEW. During the last episode of Click This, Kevin Nash offered his perspective on the April 15th episode of WWE Raw and the April 17th episode of AEW Dynamite. Nash was critical of both shows, providing his candid thoughts on Tony Khan's decision to air the CM Punk footage from nearly 3 weeks ago. He acknowledged that Khan has the freedom to do what he wants, but Nash expressed his opinion that the AEW product can be challenging to follow. And I quote from Bitcav, "You know, it's his ball. He can kick it. He wants to go kick it over onto the fucking freeway, then kick it on the freeway. I've got no skin in that game, but it's just a very hard show to watch. It's very hard to get involved. It just feels so fragmented." Kevin Nash continued reviewing the recent episodes of WWE Raw and AEW Dynamite, expressing his desire to see the company grow into a more successful and improved product. And I further quote from Kevin Nash, "In all honesty, man, I absolutely want AEW to succeed. Number one, I've got friends that work there, you know, in production and in all different aspects, not just guys that are there in front of the camera. And I think there being a viable option is huge for the longevity of the business." End quote. Now, literally everything that Kevin Nash has said, I've been saying eons now, since the inception of my channel. I mean, I know I always get this critique, which it doesn't even matter, because it really depends on the topic that I'm discussing at the moment. If I'm talking about AEW in a negative light, then obviously people are going to call me a WWE fanboy or AEW hater. And if I talk about WWE in a negative light, then it's obviously you're an AEW lover and a WWE hater. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. We just kind of live in this landscape nowadays, as far as just, you can never just have your own opinion. It has to be some type of other like ulterior agenda or motives or whatever, because, you know, it doesn't line up with your own opinion and you're that weak-minded and pathetic. And that has everything to do with you and nothing to do with me. That's the thing you have to work on. But speaking to what Kevin Nash is saying, again, it's nothing that I haven't said in a while, and he is absolutely right. Now, see, I can be candid, and I can also look at AEW and its product, and I can look at things and I can differentiate what I believe to be good or what I believe to be bad. I don't give a shit what anyone thinks about my opinion, right? I can look at the AEW pay-per-view, for an example, and I can outright say that I thought it was a good show. I can outright say that there were certain matches on the card that I thought were stupendous. They were tremendous. You know, obviously, Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson is one of the best matches of the year, maybe even the best match of the year so far, one of the best matches of the decade. It was a tremendous match, and it added on to a card that I felt throughout their matches they told a good story in their match. Their story within their match has nothing to do with the overarching narrative as to why I'm trying to get into, like, try to envelop myself within your match in itself, right? I need something as far as a backstory. I need something as far as a way to get me into your match. And I will say that the majority, if not all the matches, did not have any of that. And it really held it back from a star rating standpoint. Because, like, for an example, I go into NXT last night and I get all of this good fucking storytelling. It's just beautiful storytelling. It's not just, you know, good guy versus bad guy. It's, well, this guy has a gimmick, and, you know, this guy, he has a gimmick, And their gimmicks, they're kind of intertwining right now, but they're negatives upon each other, and this is why they're negatives upon each other. That's what I want in my professional wrestling when it's all said and done, right? I will much rather a variety show within my professional wrestling with the tool of wrestling being what gets over said story, rather than just wrestling being the tool in itself and the moves within the wrestling match is what's telling that story, and that's all we get within professional wrestling. See, that's where Kevin Nash is coming from. He wants a reason, he wants a purpose, and doing what, for an example, you look at someone like Kevin Nash, right? Now, obviously, his views are going to be a little bit more askew because he's an actual wrestler, but even someone within his position who has never been in the wrestling business before, Kevin Nash is going to be like in his mid-60s right now, right? Kevin Nash is a grown-ass man. Do you think he really wants to go watch professional wrestling and watch a bunch of twinks go in there and do little acrobatic moves? Do you really believe that he wants to watch guys who are already half naked go out there and do suspect shit for like 20 minutes? Is that really what it's all about? No. The whole reason as to why you watch professional wrestling in that manner is because you do enjoy, you do value what they bring to the table in regards to the actual combat aspect of it, right? That's what UFC is all about also. It's what WWE, it's how UFC, it's how WWE fans want so badly for everybody else to treat WWE or AEW or wrestling in general, but it's not going to happen because it's predetermined. The predetermined aspect of it is always going to take away overall from the machismo of professional wrestling, right? It's always going to take away off rip from the masculinity of professional wrestling, because literally you have a bunch of guys going in there pretending to fight. That in itself, just hearing that words, hearing that narrative already is taking all the masculinity, all the stuff off the table, right? For most people who are, for most average men, because see, we live terminally online. Like the majority of you, I live terminally online. You guys do, because you're here for the majority. You're here. You are here. If you have social media, that happens to be the case. But I can tell you, for the rest of the world, especially ones who are not glued to their phones 24/7, ones who are in poverty and they have the opportunity to do what we consider to be average things, they would consider to be a luxury, right? And when they see certain things like that, they want the best. They want the best out of that experience. You think, for an example, the best out of professional wrestling, what is actually curtailed to professional wrestling, is watching two guys go in there and flip around and do nonsense acrobatic moves, right? Versus seeing larger than life people that you're going to remember their faces. You're going to remember their character. You're going to remember why they were in the ring destroying that guy at the moment. You're going to remember, if you stay long enough, as to why they're destroying that guy, and then the other guy's destroying that guy, and they meet up, and then they're going to have a wrestling match, and they have a story to tell. You're going to remember everything about this. I'll give you a perfect example. You look at WWE, right? Go back 30 years ago. There are multiple key events you can talk about that happened about 30 years ago, almost 40 years ago, right? You can talk about Liberace dancing in the ring. You could talk about Muhammad Ali being there, right? You could talk about the time Mr. T and Hulk Hogan teamed up together to take on Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper, right? You can talk about Hogan slamming Andre. You could talk about Ricky Steamboat versus Randy Savage, for an example, right? You could talk about, for an example, Miss Elizabeth and Randy Savage getting back together. You could talk about Hogan and Ultimate Warrior going face to face for the first time. You can go up a little bit further in the Attitude Era. You could talk about Austin 316. You could talk about the Montreal Screwjob. You could talk about Taker throwing Foley off the Hell in a Cell. These are moments ingrained in our minds that was there because of the story that preceded it. And then we got to the match, and then we got those moments. Those will always be timeless. If you think of the most compelling moments in wrestling history, I guarantee you the top 50 will be nothing in the last 5 years. Do you know how pathetic and sad that is? If you make a top 50 list right now and you tell me the most important moments in wrestling history, key moments in wrestling history, not no company just started bullshit, no, actual key moments that happened on television, right? You couldn't name me anything in the last 5 years that has occurred and that would make sense to be in the top 50 in the history of professional wrestling. And you know why? Because they're not going out of their way to make moments anymore. Their reasoning, their way to get around this, I understand. It's all about the political correctness. I understand PC culture has got you in the bind where you really can't stretch out your wings like you really want to, but it does hurt people like Kevin Nash. It does hurt people like me. We can be able to look at things and decipher from it and say that that's good, that's bad, that's good, that's bad. But there is going to be an overall score to this. And that overall score, that overall grade, it's going to be dramatically low. Because here's the thing, give you a comparison. You look throughout 2024, right? And I may say to myself that I like these pay-per-view shows. I can say off rip, I liked Revolution. I can say off rip, I like Dynasty. I like Double or Nothing. I liked All In. I liked All Out. I liked Full Gear. I liked World's End. I liked all these shows throughout the entire year. But guess what? That's like 7, 8 shows, right? I still have to sit every week. 52 weeks in a year. That's 52 episodes of Dynamite, right? And that's not even taking into account 52 episodes of Collision. That's not even taking into account 52 weeks of fucking Rampage. We're talking about nearly 200 weeks of television shows. And you deliver on 7. And you want to sit here and by the way, all those are behind paywalls. And you want me to sit here and pretend that you have a good product at the moment because 7 shows happen to be very, very good? That has nothing to do with the actual build up into it, which by the way, I will always hold back from because I don't feel it's complete because you're not telling a complete story. You're jumping directly into the book and giving me the action. And yeah, that's good. I can tell you that chapter 11 in that book happens to be fucking fantastic as far as what I'm reading. That has nothing to do with the overall book in itself and me saying that I do not like it. Just because chapter 11 to chapter 14 happen to be very compelling, I would like to have a good reason as to why I'm reading up to chapter 11 and not jumping directly to it because I heard my fans talking about her. I heard all my friends in school talk about, hey guys, look at a movie for an example. Hey guys, remember that scene from that movie? And you know the theatrics and the explosion and the choreograph and yeah man, I'm gonna meme the shit out of it, bro. Okay, and then you tell me all this, and then I go on, I don't know, Hulu or Netflix, wherever the case may be. You think I'm gonna watch the entire movie if I'm seeing the intro of it being completely terrible, and I sit through the first 10 minutes of it and I'm bored out of my fucking mind? So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to jump directly to the spot that everybody is talking about just to see what they're talking about. And there's a good chance that it's going to impress the shit out of me, right? I love everything about it. But guess what? I still skipped to the middle because I didn't want to see anything in the beginning because what they're showing me in the beginning happens to be fucking terrible. That's how people see professional wrestling as a whole. But in particular, talking about AEW at the moment, that's how people see AEW. For nothing else, WWE is going to always be a legacy brand. They'll be okay. They can have opportunities to make mistakes. AEW has no room for mistakes. Yet they make them over and over and over and over again. And it's all just to please an audience that's not going anywhere. That's the crazy shit to me. You're trying to please an audience that's not going anywhere. They're always going to be there. And it feels like I go on these rants like every other day. It feels like anytime I talk about AEW and the product in itself, it reverts right back to the same talking points. But I feel as if I have to hit on these points over and over and over and over again. Not just because new people come every day as far as subscribing to the channel who probably never heard these views before, but also because I feel like the people who are listening, the people who are hearing it, whether it's the WWE fanboys who think this is a good thing, who think that AEW in the position to go out of business is a good thing, never mind the pathetic position of wrestlers losing their jobs and stuff like that. That's bad. Okay, but talking specifically about you, do you really want just one wrestling company? And you may say to yourself, for WWE doesn't value AEW at all, yada, 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 yada. But you not taking into context the fact that them just now being out of sight, out of mind, is always going to be a bad thing. Whether they are around or whether they're not, two things. One, not having them in the line of sight is going to dramatically be much worse compared to what WWE wants to do, knowing that at the very least there's a chance that AEW could get momentum. That is always in the back of their mind. You don't believe me? Look at the talent that they're picking up right now that AEW and them battled for. And now you may say to yourself, those wrestlers going to AEW don't mean anything. They don't. But it's just the mentality, that mindset, that could be a possibility for a larger superstar. Yes, it's not the case for a Kazuchika Okada. Yes, it's not the case for a Will Ospreay. Yes, it's not the case for a Mercedes Moné. But if someone comes through who happens to be more popular, who can actually push them, who can actually push the needle, you don't see that now, obviously. But you don't know the future. And if that momentum that you see right now carrying on with a Kazuchika Okada, with a Mercedes Moné, with a Will Ospreay were to happen with that superstar right there, that's what keeps WWE on their toes. But they're not if AEW is not around. I don't understand why people think that this is a good thing. Again, remove the empathetic status as far as how you feel about people caring about people having jobs. I understand at the end of the day, you don't feel that's your problem. You do not give a shit. That is not your life, and you're entitled to that opinion. But look at it even from a selfish standpoint and recognize that them not being in the line of sight is always going to be a bad thing. Not to mention, I know it's terrible right now. Yes, I understand. There is nothing that actually gives me any clues that this is going to happen in the future, but still, there is still a shred of hope that AEW will figure this out. There is still a shred of hope that culture will get to a point where there will be an uproar and there will be a push against this political correctness and nonsense. Maybe there will be a time, there will be a place where everybody will revolt against the woke. And maybe AEW will see this as a way to maybe start pandering to actual masculinity. Maybe they will start pandering creatively to what men really want to see. And I'm not talking about wrestling otaku, man. I'm talking about real men. I'm talking about people who were there in the audience 20 years ago who left to go watch MMA, UFC. That audience didn't completely die off. They're right there. They're right there. They're waiting for you to do something to cater to them. Yet you want to sit here, you want to cater to these soy boys. That's what Kevin Nash is talking about. That's what everybody is talking about when focusing on AEW. You do not care about the audience that you're supposed to be going after. And then you get upset, and then you want to go on these fringe attacks on everybody because no one finds you compelling at all. And then you drop more and more and more in the viewership numbers and the ratings, and then your fans cope, and they think of every other fucking different metric in order to put on you to make you look good, rather than focusing on the problem that's directly in front of them faces, and then actually fixing that problem. That way you don't have to go in these circular logical motions and say to yourself, well, maybe if I can just pull up this random fucking abstract number that has nothing to do with anything and shove it in your face and tell you that we're currently doing good at the moment, maybe I can make myself feel good. How about you make yourself feel good, make me feel good, make everybody else in your fan base feel good, make the whole professional wrestling business feel good by actually doing the correct things in professional wrestling. Not just to what I believe as far as what I like, but just look at the landscape. Look at what made professional wrestling popular. This right here is not popular professional wrestling. This right here is nothing more than a downtrend. And you sit here, and people say this about WWE also. You sit here and you confuse yourself with believing that things are popular currently at the moment because of all the numbers you add in this totality. Let me ask you a question for people who were not around during the time. I'm going to repeat myself, and I'm going to give it to you. What do you believe currently right now would be the number in comparison if, say for an example, social media existed in the year 1999? For everybody who's like, look at what's happening with cable when it's dying at the moment. Wowzers. Let me ask you a question. If the Attitude Era had social media back in the year 2000, you already see the downtrend as far as the television numbers are in comparison, right? But your argument is, well, Devontae, do you recognize that there are now alternatives to cable network? Stupid fucking argument, considering that there are other television shows still scoring in the tens of 20s of millions. Put that to the side, though, for a second. What do you think the social media numbers, if say, for example, Twitter, Facebook, all of those fucking things, what do you think the social media numbers will look like in 1999 in comparison to now? If you see a downtrend in the television networks and the numbers and shit like that, what do you think the fucking same thing would be as far as a downtrend if social media existed back then? You see 2 million right now, that would have probably been 20 million 20 years ago. And you sit here and you try to cloud your mind into believing that what your generation currently doing at the moment is the correct thing. No matter what you do in order to distract from the reality, it is the reality. You sit back and you play games like this, and then all of a sudden AEW dies and you say to yourself, man, I wish that they were around. Well, here's the thing. They could have been around, and they could have been doing better things. They could have been doing the right things. They could be doing good things at the moment if you would stop enabling the bullshit that is currently a distraction in professional wrestling in itself. Politics is a distraction within professional wrestling. Yes, it is. And until we figure this out, AEW, I wish you the best. But Kevin Nash is absolutely right. I mean, he's not saying anything that I haven't been saying for the past couple of years now, but it's nice to hear it from veterans once in a while. It's nice to have an actual appeal to authority. For those to say all the time, oh, you're just a person sitting behind your computer screen talking into your microphone. Well, what is Kevin Nash then? Is the two-time Hall of Famer, former WWF champion? Is he just the guy sitting behind this computer screen also? Are we now on the same? Are you putting us on the same plateau? Thank you. I appreciate it. I feel very humble hearing you saying that me and Kevin Nash were aligned as far as authority on the situation in regards to professional. Thank you. I didn't think I had that in me. I believe I don't think that, but thank you for thinking that for me. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Again, as always, I can say whatever I want about AEW. I can be as humble. I can say it in such a soft voice. I can try to speak as softly as I can while criticizing them. And it's always going to be someone who wants to take it and pretend that I just attacked their entire fucking being. I just attacked their life. Life has no meaning because Devontae went after my opinion in regards to AEW. Oh, God almighty. Fresh air. Breathe it. Oh, God. OD on some grass with your hands touching it. Please, just think logically, man. Logically. Because like I said, when that time comes and AEW goes 6 feet under, who's to blame? Is it the guy who pointed out all the things as to why they're 6 feet under? Or is the guy shoving people down and putting his hands in their faces and telling them to fuck off? I mean, God damn it, bro. You're like an abusive girl. You're like in an abusive relationship, and then suddenly you get pushed down the stairs and you're paralyzed after being warned week after month after year that the guy that you're currently with right now at the moment is bad for you. Nah, you don't understand him like I do. Okay, you know what? I don't understand. Okay, cool. Keep that same energy while you're sitting in a wheelchair, locked up in your bed, wondering what the fuck is going on with my vagina because I can't give babies anymore because I don't know how to bend over straight because my body won't allow me to because my husband did this to me. That's you when it comes to AEW. Hopefully, though, I can help you bend over. Take it. My name is Devontae. I'll catch you guys later. Deuces, P. Ice.